Yo, what's up? What's going on, everybody? Big thanks for everyone here listening in to the September 15th, 2024 episode of the Boxing Swords podcast. I am your host, James Bell, JR Bell, the Boxing Swords himself. And we got a number of things here that we're going to be talking about in this particular podcast. Of course, we had a lot of action here, a lot of boxing action this weekend. Jumping it off, of course, with the main event that happened over at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas for the unified super middleweight titles. You had the Ring Magazine champion there, Saul Canelo Alvarez, or as I say, Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan, taking on Edgar Berlanga there in the main event. And, we're going to be talking about that fight. Of course, the fights are on the undercard as well. And you'll see if we have time to touch on a couple of other fights that happened, on Friday and on Thursday. I know you had Big Time Boxing USA on Thursday. We had a fight card that was on the zone on Friday night that was, held in Mexico there. So particularly with the main event, there was a number of things there that went down in that one. So we're going to see if we can touch on that as well. And here scheduled for 8 p.m. Eastern time live will be the undefeated contender there in the super featherweight division. Albert Bell will join us here, to talk about his upcoming fight. That will be on ProBox TV, scheduled for October 26th, right? That will be something there. So we're going to be talking about that fight and more here on this particular episode here. So if you can, be sure to, hit the share button, let people know about what's going down here on this particular episode. And we're going to get to it, man. Of course, we had the fight card over at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. There had been, a couple folks that, were chopping it up with me this weekend. They saying if I was going to be out there, but I couldn't make it out there. Of course, what's going down next weekend. I'll be out over in the UK next weekend for that fight card. So I pretty much had to, stay in here for this one. And, was able to watch this unified super middleweight championship fight between Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga. Of course, Edgar Berlanga was the number one contender for the WBA version of the super middleweight title, which Canelo Alvarez currently has. He's also the Ring Magazine champion, the WBC champion, and the WBO champion. Yes, the IBF was IBFing. He'd been IBFing. So he had to relinquish the IBF super middleweight title. Okay. So, of course, you're going to eventually have William Skol versus Vladimir Shishkin for that vacant IBF title later on down the line. But let's focus on what's going down right here. You had Canelo Alvarez, of course, long-standing multi-division world champion there at 61 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. Of course, with the 2 losses to Floyd Mayweather Jr. and to Dimitri Bivol. 2 draws, of course, like one of them most notably there to Golovkin. But, he's had these string of wins here ever since he's been in the super middleweight division, of course, being a undisputed super middleweight champion, becoming undisputed with a win over Caleb Plant, which, I'll talk about Caleb Plant later. Now you have Edgar Berlanga, of course, undefeated coming into this fight, 22-0, 17 of those wins by way of knockout. We had a discussion about this last week in reference to this fight, that, of course, Berlanga had that 16-fight KO streak, but once the level of competition started to be increased a little bit there for him, he had issues, trying to put punches together, trying to set up shots, trying to, be able to hurt his opponents. And he was getting frustrated when he didn't necessarily do that on the number of fights. And that was one of the keys there that I was talking about in the preview, was that, what would be the methods for Edgar Berlanga to be able to get a win here in this particular bout, but he had to be able to execute a few things here against Canelo in order to, at least have much of a shot here. And, the thing about it is that him being the larger fighter, as far as like his height was concerned, The weight, particularly with the weight, it was kind of like reported on there that he, Berlanga, that is, got into this particular bout the day of at pretty much like close to 193 pounds. After making the 168-pound limit, he rehydrated and was able to get up to about 193. I mean, hey, when you're fighting for the undisputed championship and you got the IBF, and the IBF holds you to a 10-pound rehydration. So, if you had the IBF on the line, you could only rehydrate up to 178. But here, with that not even being in the case or being in effect, hey, you can pretty much rehydrate to whatever you want to. So Edgar Berlanga, he was able to rehydrate to 193 pounds. Now, was that somewhat of a factor in this bout? I don't know, but I'll get into that here a little bit later, because I did have some expectations in this particular fight that didn't necessarily, come to fruition, so to speak, right? So here in this bout, right, you had Edgar Berlanga there. He was, I guess, trying to soak in the moment, so to speak, there within those first couple of rounds. But we saw the experience level between the two early there in the third round there, where you had Canelo Alvarez. Of course, he comes in there, with a high guard. He can move in and out as far as like bobbing and weaving. And, he could basically, say, hey, check it. I'm going to set him up. And that's what happened here in this particular bout between Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga. You've seen, Canelo basically do a twitch move that brought down the guard of Edgar Berlanga, and then Canelo was able to land the hook, pop Edgar Berlanga, and put him down on the canvas. Right there, he was able to put him down on the canvas there in the third round with a setup shot, and it was like an easy setup shot, so to speak, right? And then after he got put down, he was able to get up and make somewhat of an effort of it, I would guess, for Edgar Berlanga. There were times when Edgar Berlanga was able to land with the jab there, like I said, using his height, using his reach, landing the jab at times, but he wasn't really, following up with that much there after that. And you really didn't see a number of those power shots from Edgar Berlanga, particularly landing very well on Canelo Alvarez. And I'll talk about, what happened there at the tail end of the fight, that where you had almost something that was similar to Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas that happened over in Dallas a couple of years ago, right? But hey, no, quick shout out there on the live chat. Alberto got a good point there in reference to Edgar Berlanga, and when I mentioned the thing as far as like him rehydrating to 193 pounds, because over the course of this bout, you've seen Edgar Berlanga take a number of good power shots, uppercuts, hooks to the body, there from Canelo Alvarez. It was pretty much like an efficient, Canelo Alvarez in this one. I'd say, you really didn't see that much of where he was able to, throw a good number of shots there against Edgar Berlanga, but it was still something to where you said, hey, he wants to make sure that, he lands whatever, and lands big shots there, against Berlanga in this, and that's why, you kind of like seen it to where Canelo, at least from just here from the punch set thing, right? Canelo was able to land more, and he only threw like a little bit more. There was only like say what, about 18 more punches over the course of the fight. There they count as 464 for Canelo Alvarez and 446 for Edgar Berlanga. And Canelo was able to land 201 shots to Berlanga's 119. you know. And Canelo was almost able to land at 50% with his power punches. 50%. With 49 of those power punches that he landed were to the body. So he pretty much had like a little bit of a plan to like mix things up there on Edgar Berlanga and try to break him down. But I guess like Alberto's saying here, with that extra weight, maybe that ended up being a major factor there for Berlanga not being able to be seriously hurt in this bout. Like I said, after that setup shot in the third round that knocked Berlanga down, you really didn't see much else where Berlanga was in serious trouble from the power shots there from Canelo Alvarez. So the thing about it was, it's like, okay, you're able to get through this. Was it something where you fought to survive, or was it to where you kind of like made a little bit of an effort of it? And you kind of like could see that Berlanga was kind of game in some instances, but you seen like there wasn't something where you would say Edgar Berlanga had an open opportunity to really get the momentum back in his favor, particularly in the tail end of the bout. You could see that there were times where he got frustrated in this bout, that he really couldn't, get his full offense going. Like I said, able to land sometimes with the jabs, but not much else outside of that. And because of that, he just didn't feel like he, had the openings that he would like there against Canelo Alvarez, and started to, roughhouse a little bit there against Canelo. And Canelo, he doesn't necessarily like that all too much there, while being in the ring. He likes to, be in there as far as like competing, have a good tactical bout at times, have a little instances where, you would kind of like say, hey, you get like a good rough, tough bouts a little bit, landing some good shots on Canelo or whatever it is. But the rough house, he ain't necessarily with all that, So that was something there, at least particularly within those, like 8 rounds, 8 through 10 or whatnot, right? And then there was like an instance there where Canelo and Berlanga were starting to, gesture to each other and all that type of stuff, and there was a point where Canelo started to walk away from Berlanga at the end of a round, and then Berlanga was able to have an open shot, I think, with with the left hand, right? And he hit Canelo with an open shot, and man, that still didn't really buzz Canelo one bit. But I think that's kind of like something to the point of Berlanga, so to speak, because as I mentioned there with Berlanga, he had those string of knockout victories there to start his career, but it's more about sometimes you can have those instances where opponents are put in front of you to do a job. That's basically how I say it. They're there to do a job, and they could basically like have that job fulfilled or whatnot. But once that competition escalated there for Edgar Berlanga, like I said, with the likes of Damon Nicholson, like I said, with the likes of Steve Rolls or Marcelo Caceres, that means you're going to have to do a little bit more in order to get a stoppage or get a knockout. And in those past bouts, Edgar Berlanga wasn't able to necessarily do that. And then once you find out that they ain't going down with your plan A, you need a plan B. And the thing with Edgar Berlanga is, I don't know if he really has much of a plan B. I don't think he really has like a plan B. And so when he does have a plan B, then you kind of see his, patience pretty much go out the window, and that's what you've seen in a number of those past bouts that he had there over the past couple of years. And then you've seen it here in this Canelo bout. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, hey, and this was one of the things that I was going to point out. I had the expectation that Canelo Alvarez was going to get a knockout victory. And it almost seemed like we could have had something there with that third round knockdown that happened. But it ended up not being the case. We didn't really see much where, I would say that Berlanga, fell for a trap or whatever it is, or something like that. You know what I mean? And you kind of seen there with Canelo too that he tried different things as well. One thing that I noticed from him, I may have done this before or a couple of times there, but if y'all remember Gennady Golovkin's fight against Steve Rolls, where he would do a punch that was, like he would have an uppercut, right? It would be like the opposite of that. Like he will start up here and then throw and then come down with it. It's almost like, you're trying to, land, I guess, pretty much like on the cheek or whatever it is, or try to get to the eye or something like that. You've seen that there with Canelo Alvarez on Edgar Berlanga. He was trying that type of a punch where it's like I don't know, maybe I'll have a new name for it, an overcut, not or an undercut or something, or a lower cut, something. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, I mean, what do you say? Hey, the opposite of up is down, or whatever it is, or I don't know, man. Listen, that type of punch, was kind of dangerous because you don't know how to. I don't think you would necessarily know how you'll be able to defend something like that because, for one, it is coming from over the top, and the way that you naturally guard yourself, you have your hands up, right? You can have your hands up close to your face, and if that type of punch, comes towards you, either it could like get around your guard, or it could be something where it could hit your guard, but the impact of the punch could kind of like bring it down. It could kind of bring it down, right? So you could have something where you kind of like block that punch, but the punch takes your arm down, which could lead to another punch coming down the pipe that you can't really fully defend. So that's a, like I said, that's a dangerous punch there. But Canelo was able to try to get that implemented there a couple of times in this particular fight, but it didn't get or lead to another knockdown or anything like that where Berlanga was in serious trouble. I expected a knockout here from Canelo Alvarez in this fight, and didn't necessarily get it. Yeah, we didn't get it. I like, to be honest, I really didn't think much or very highly of Edgar Berlanga. And I said to someone before the fight that if Canelo doesn't get a knockout, man, he might have to think about just going ahead and getting those gloves, taking those gloves off, and hanging them up. Yeah, I said it because I really don't think that highly of Edgar Berlanga in a sense of his overall standing in the super middleweight division. Like I said, listen, if you have him up against the likes of a Diego Pacheco, of a Jaime Munguia, of a Christian and Billy, would you like favor someone like him over those guys? No, not necessarily. At least I wouldn't. So with that being said, like who else would you have out there in the division, right? That you would say that Edgar Berlanga would be able to, get a win over. I don't know. Like, I mean, you got David Benavidez and David Morrell, they're out of the division, so you don't even have to think about them. But as I mentioned before, like, Diego Pacheco, Jaime Munguia, Christian and Billy, also it's Iglesias, or the contenders here, William Skoll and Vladimir Shishkin. Like, could you say that he could beat a Vladimir Shishkin? Could you say he could beat like Alessio Martinez, who was scheduled to be fighting on Wednesday night, but didn't make that fight on Wednesday night, as y'all know. That was supposed to be on ProBox TV September 11th against Joshawn James. But they're going to reschedule that bout. Hopefully I get some more from or more news from Joshawn James as to when they'll be able to reschedule it. I say it might be over sometime in November, but we're going to see. how that works out. But yeah, like as far as like Edgar Berlanga standing there in the super middleweight division, like would you really put him there as far as like, hey, he really got some things going there when it comes to being a real contender out there in super middleweight. And yeah, I hadn't mentioned up to this particular point another super middleweight that was a former super middleweight champion in Caleb Plant. Would you have Edgar Berlanga favored against Caleb Plant? At least I wouldn't. I wouldn't. So for me, it should have been like, you know what, Edgar Berlanga in comparison to Canelo Alvarez, like I just felt like he shouldn't have been in the same ring there with Canelo Alvarez. That's kind of how I put it. I mean, just being honest. And when you have someone that isn't even anywhere near the level of you, you got to be able to handle them, take care of them, and get them out get them out the paint, get them out the ring, just and finish them. And you didn't see that from Canelo Alvarez. Now, I did have something, a few fights back when it came to Canelo, when he, had defended the titles there against John Ryder last year. And I said, had Canelo lost the set because, he had this same instance where he scored an early knockdown and then, just got through the bout, got through 12 rounds and, got a decision, where folks will like feel like John Ryder shouldn't have been really in the same ring or nowhere near the same caliber as Canelo Alvarez. So that should have been a stoppage victory. But this is what we have here in this particular case here with Berlanga. Not really supposed to be in the same ring, was like a significant underdog against Canelo Alvarez. And there was, a lot leaning towards Canelo, getting a knockout, or at least that was a pick. And we didn't necessarily get it. So that was, at least for Canelo, right? He has had unanimous decision victories in every single fight since his loss to Dmitry Bivol in 2022. So every single bout that he's had up to this particular point has gone the full 12 rounds. And he's won all of them, of course. None of them have really been that close there. But, not being able to score, a knockout victory over Edgar Berlanga, and like to a certain extent, here what happened last year or pretty much a year ago, when Canelo Alvarez faced Jermell Charlo, who was coming up from 154 pounds, got a knockdown in that bout, but still wasn't able to finish off Jermell Charlo. So it's like, are we going to see something where Canelo is going to be able to have a stoppage victory in this sense? And I'm not necessarily sure. In the super middleweight division, you got to have I feel like you got to have some type of mix of, being able to win by decision, being able to, properly finish opponents out there in that division to, really make an impact in it. You know what I'm saying? So with Canelo, he's kind of like said, that he has like another 4 or 5 years. I don't know about all that. I know it'd be like 2 fights a year, Cinco de Mayo, Mexican Independence Day weekend. That's pretty much what Canelo does. But another 5 years, or at least 4 years, do y'all see Canelo having 8 more fights, 8 more pro fights before he hangs it up? I don't see it. I don't necessarily see it. While he is able to, retain the belts, though, like I said, Rake Magazine, Lineal, WBC, WBO, WBA, super middleweight titles, I really don't think that, I see him having that many more fights left in his career. Now, as far as like what could be next for him, pretty much up in the air. Up in the air, it's unknown. We kind of like mentioned the whole thing there with Canelo and Terrence Crawford. Like I said, that would be a cash out fight for both fighters. Definite cash out fight for both fighters. I personally don't see, or I personally don't have that much interest in it. there, because you're going to have it would be another instance of a fighter that's coming up from 154 to 168 to fight Canelo Alvarez. You yeah, we have the status of Terrence Crawford being one of the top pound for pound fighters in the sport, but hey, we saw what happened here in this bout against where you had Terrence Crawford there against Islam Madrimov, right? And in that one, he kind of like had a little bit of time to try to get in the thick of things against Islam Madrimov, who showed a good amount of movement, a good amount of foot feints there from a defensive standpoint, and kind of like threw off the timing a little bit there from Terrence Crawford. Now he'll be having another one of these instances where it's like one fight per year, and you can't necessarily have that going up against a fighter in Canelo Alvarez that fights twice a year and is there in a bigger division. And also, like I said, without that IBF title, if you're going to be fighting for those super middleweight titles, hey, Canelo could rehydrate to whatever he wants to or whatever he feels comfortable in. So that's something there where you're going to have to think about those multiple factors there before you go up and face Canelo Alvarez. But at least for me, from a business standpoint, for both fighters, that's like a cash out. We what we want to see. We want to see Canelo Alvarez there against David Benavidez. And the way, with what David Benavidez is doing here, at least currently, he does have a fight scheduled here for December, maybe December 14th. That could be part of a pay-per-view doubleheader, but we'll see how that turns out there in that particular instance. And with David Benavidez, he did say that he wants to kind of like take over Cinco de Mayo weekend and try to get the winner of Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, but that remains to be seen with that. So, I mean, if Canelo isn't really interested in facing Terrence Crawford, as he mentioned there after the fight, this fight ended yesterday. And he said that he's not necessarily interested in fighting David Benavidez. Then what? Who's he gonna fight? Christian and Billy, Diego Pacheco? Like I have no idea who it would be. Like, shoot, even a long shot. What about a rematch with Caleb Plant? I don't know. I don't necessarily know how that's going to go down there, but. We got to see, what happens here with Canelo Alvarez, because he's kind of running out of options out there as far as like fights. And yeah, I know that he did also mention that he would be interested in fighting Dmitry Bivol once again if Bivol wins the undisputed light heavyweight title. Canelo did say that he wasn't necessarily, I guess, up to speed, so to speak, against Dmitry Bivol in their fight that happened a couple of years ago, and that he says like, hey, he might have more, more in the tank or more in the toolbox against Bivol in the rematch. So he would kind of like be interested in a rematch there at 175 pounds if it was for the undisputed light heavyweight title. So we'll see what happens first on October 12th there with that Bivol versus Beterbiev fight, and if Bivol wins and becomes undisputed champion, then we'll see what will be next, because I guess there'll be a little bit of a fight outside of the ring to see who would face the winner of Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. But I'll say this. If we have that fight, Bivol Beterbiev on October 12th, and Artur Beterbiev wins, if he wins by like stoppage or whatever it is, I don't think Canelo is going to go up and face Beterbiev for those undisputed belts. So we'll probably end up seeing David Benavidez versus Artur Beterbiev for those undisputed light heavyweight titles out there. So that would kind of like be something there to see how it would turn out. First, we got to wait until October 12th to see what goes down on that. And afterwards, then we see what happens with the light heavyweight situation, right? Just real quick, you also had, on that Las Vegas fight card there, T-Mobile Arena, we had that co-feature about. But first, we have our special guest that's coming up here. We're very thankful to have him on here on the Boxing Source, as he will be fighting on October 26th in Dallas, Texas, headlining a 10-fight card that will be televised on ProBox TV. Coming in with a record of 26-0, with 9 of those wins by way of knockout, hailing from Toledo, Ohio. That's right. He is the prince of boxing. That's right. It's Albert. Yo, what's going on, man?
How you doing, man? That's a nice introduction, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. We gotta have it. We gotta make sure that's all good. I mean, of course, we share like the same last name too. So
For sure.
I gotta come through with that, man. But like I was saying there, you'll be having this fight headlining against Jose Ivan Guardado in that ProBox card at the K. Bailey Hudson Convention Center. How did that bout come to fruition?
To be honest, I was supposed to fight on the top ranked card in August. Me and Jared Anderson, we were supposed to do a main and co-main event here in Toledo, but he got the opportunity to fight on the Terrence Crawford card with the Turkey, and so the card ended up getting scrapped. So that kind of messed up the top ranked dates for the rest of the year as far as main and co-main event slots. So basically I was just told to stay active until they get the new schedule and new year date of the years. So the opportunity came by. It's with this situation. It sounded good. Everything looked good and checked out. And we just made it happen. You know what I mean? It made sense. I ended up running into Gilberto and talked to him about trying to get in the WBA rankings and see what I could do to position myself in there. So we ended up getting a regional title, the WBA International on the line, and as well as the WBA NABO because it's still vacant. So try to get that back under my banner as well. So that's pretty much just how it happened. My manager found the opportunity, pitched it to me. It sounded good, and the rest was history.
Yeah, I mean, like you said there, you're undefeated. You'll have that NABO title there, for a good little minute, and then here, I guess in this particular bout, you're able to add, a version of a WBA title. Like you said, you were chopping it up with Roberto Mendoza of the WBA, and you said they'll be able to get involved with that main event there on October 26th. Now, I mean, a few months ago, you're able to have a first round knockout there at their hometown of Toledo, Ohio. You've had a good number of fights out there, and Toledo is definitely had an extensive history in boxing, also in like combat sports, not just boxing, but like wrestling and all that other type of stuff. What does it mean for you to like represent the city like that every time you step in the ring in Toledo?
I feel like it's a great thing. You know what I mean? Toledo, like I said multiple times, we don't have major sports teams. So us being fighters and like the most popular thing here, we become one man sports team. So it's the city is on my back heavy every time I step in that ring, far as as well as any other guys that box and represent our city as well. So to me to be like that front running guy right now, you know what I mean, I had to wait my turn, and it was Robert Easter's turn, you know what I mean, he had his time, other fighters had their times, and now it's my time to lead the pack. So I take great pride in that, and it means a whole lot, great deal to me.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, with Toledo having that extensive history in boxing, being part of a great fight town, great fight state too, there in Ohio, so you've had a number of notable fighters, come through the ranks and be world champions and everything like that, and you're on your way to becoming that next world champion here.
Most definitely.
So, now you've been a top contender there in the WBO rankings for some time. Actually, I looked into it. It's like been over a year that you've been. You're pretty much at what, number one or number two? There?
Yeah, I've been number one for over a year. Yeah.
Yeah, number one over a year.
I got dropped back for like a small period of time for like a couple weeks or so or something like that, but then they corrected it and I was right back. So it's been over a year for sure.
Yeah. Now, my question reference to that with the WBO is, what will it take for the organization to go ahead and call for that mandatory as it's well overdue?
Um, Hopefully, time will tell. I just got to keep doing what I'm doing and keep getting these wins. Keep myself at the top of that position because Navarrete became super champion where he doesn't have to answer a mandatory or a number one fighter for a year. That's up in February if he get past Valdez again. So hopefully it line right up. Me fighting at basically the beginning of end of October, beginning of November, basically, and they fight December 7th. So it should line right up for which would be my next fight with would be around sometime March April anyway, and if he win, I'm sure his next fight will be around March or April, and his super champion position where he doesn't have to answer a number one or mandatory should be up, and I think they should do the right thing in order to fight. But more than likely I'll probably be back with Top Rank under the Top Rank banner around that time. So I know they can make it happen. It'll make sense for them as well because both under the same stable. You know what I mean? And it just makes sense. So hopefully, 2025 we should be getting that news or um, knowing what's going on with it is at least.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said there with the super champion status, that kind of like extends the mandatory guidelines there from like 12 months to like 16 months or something like that. There,
Yeah,
yo. So at least at that particular time, it'll be up. So once you get in there in 2025, you'll be able to be in that position.
most definitely.
Yeah. Now back to this card in Dallas. Now it's a huge card. Like I said, 10 fights that involves fighters there from the U.S. against fighters based in Mexico. What's your thoughts on the card and how it's set up?
Um, I think it's a great card. It gets to showcase just not only the U.S. fighters that's good and doing good in their career, but also the guys from Mexico. Like the co-main event, I believe. Um, well, I know he's undefeated, and I believe he's more like so on the A side of things against my Ohio guy, former world champion Mickey Bay. So it's a fight for either one of those guys to take. That's highly competitive, and it could put them in championship contention as well. And then just the whole card, you got guys from Mexico that's taking on contenders, former world champions. Myself in the main event taking on a tough guy. It's a stacked card, especially like it's a very stacked card, and it's right down there on the border. You know what I mean? Where America, so is the American fans gonna show up, the Mexican fans gonna show up, and I just think it's just gonna be a great night of boxing because the card is stacked and it's like even playing field. You know what I mean? We're not in Mexico, but we in America, but it's right there where you can't get comfortable with either. So it's definitely gonna be a decent, nice card and a fun night of boxing.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you have, like you said, in the co-feature, Mickey Bay there versus Sergio Jimenez. There, you're also going to have, former world champion Tony Harrison, and also it includes like Tyler McCreary, Rasheem Brown, Wilver Hernandez against Jorge Martinez. So
Yeah,
they're definitely setting up for a good fight card there. At that Kate Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas, man. That's going to be something there in that one. Now, there was like one other bout that, was kind of like almost put together there for you there within the WBO, right?
hmm
But it didn't necessarily, come to fruition. There, you were almost in line to be fighting Archie Sharp, and then
oh
all of a
yeah.
sudden that kind of like fell apart there. Like, do you know like what happened with that? And then of course he ended up having a fight, outside of that, and was in the short end there in his bout that happened against Ryan Garner.
Um, I can't really tell you what happened because everything made sense. You know what I mean? It was just a decision of the WBO, whatever decision that they made, with not making it for the intern because that's what we was trying to do it for. Like, I have no problem fighting Archie. You know what I mean? He ain't had no problem fighting me. It just had to make sense. You know what I mean? If it was gonna be for nothing or to position ourselves, then it's kind of too hard of a fight to make with him being over there and I'm being over here and getting the money and backing and all that if it wasn't gonna be for what we was trying to make it be for, you know what I mean? So we was trying to make it for the interim. He was number 3 at the time. I
Yeah.
was number 1. Um, they said no to it, not making an interim bout while Navarrete was super champ. But then they turned around and let number 2 and number 4 fight each other for the interim championship. So I really don't know what the process was of that, how it went about, and whatever. We had the backing, we had the TV. It was going to be on the zone. Um, Everything was lined up. We just needed the okay for them to say it was, you know what I mean, officially ordered for the interim championship, and it would have been done and over with. But yeah, it's just one of those things, when just politics get in the way. I don't, at that time he wasn't with a big promoter. He wasn't back with Queensberry yet, and
Mhm.
so I was independent. He was independent. So it's more of a thing I think had to do with politics and the promoter back end of the situation. But it just happened to fall like that. But we did. I had everything secured, as far as the backings of the purses and all that type of situation. OTX Overtime Boxing was going to take care of that, and we had the zone, we had the platform, we had everything lined up, all the X's and O's. Um, and we just didn't get the opportunity. But I just what I mean, it's the past now. He fought again, took a chance against another undefeated guy. He came up on the short end of the stick. I believe he'll bounce back in the near future. And if it makes sense again, I'm still open to that fight as well. You know what I mean? Um, but right now, we just focus on the guy we got right now in front of me, and then God willing, I be successful and go on to get that world championship shot.
Yeah, like you said, sometimes politics could, you know, lead to things that could happen on the good side or not so good side of there. And in that particular case, there with Archie Sharp, it was on the not so good side. And you did mention there OTX as you were part of the OTX card
Mhm.
last year. So you could have had something set up for that, but that just didn't necessarily come to fruition on that particular instance there. So now you had to move forward. You have this bout coming up here. Like I said in Dallas, and you go through that, handle business, then you're pretty much like set up, to fight the world champion there in 2025.
Right. That's the plan, you know what I mean? But so we just see, you know what I mean, we just staying focused right now and gotta get past this guy. I'm not overlooking him. And you know what I mean, I'm looking to keep these performances that I have been putting on lately up to that standard or better. So I'm just locked in and focused on that, and then we'll let the chips fall where they may after that, you know what I mean? So um we just waiting to see.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mentioned the thing there with the first round knockout, but you had a string of knockout victories here over the past few fights. So it looks like you've been putting a few things together, and it is all coming in a full form, so to speak, there in the ring to be able to get those type of victories against those opponents. So, like, how has it been to, like, do you feel like you've been very comfortable here over these past few fights there to get those type of victories?
Yeah, just getting better, getting more comfortable, you know what I mean? Just knowing that my hands are healthy and being able to comfortable know just and having the confidence and belief that I know they're healthy so I can just throw them without in the back of my mind holding up or pulling back just mentally without even because when you believe in it, you could just let it go. But sometimes your body protects itself, your mind. You know what I mean? So now I know I'm all the way right. I'm letting them go, and I'm just comfortable in there. Believe in myself. I believe in my abilities, and I'm just getting just more comfortable as a full developed seasoned pro now, and just letting the fights come to me, and the rounds are going longer now. I'm more of a guy that breaks fighter down, even though I've been getting these guys out there with big one shots at a time lately. But
Mhm.
I know my knockouts is gonna come as I got further in my career because the time span, you know what I mean. After I break you down and take the mental aspect away from you, I'm either gonna stop you or just gonna go into straight survival mode. But I just feel like I'm a lot stronger and a lot better mentally, and I just believe in my hands now holding up, and it's all coming together at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, you got it to where your hands are there, fully 100% or whatnot. But that definitely doesn't take away from your skills because
For sure.
through your undefeated record, it's like these aren't like close bouts by any sense of the imagination. Like everything
For
has
sure.
basically been like blowout victories, so to speak. Like you won, like for example, if like on the 10 round bout, you could win at least 7 of those 10 rounds or 7 or more.
Yeah, I think the only fight I lost more than 2 rounds in ever was my first 10 rounder was against Andy Vincius, and I was 14-0 at the time. He was 22-0 at the time, and I believe that fight was 7-3 on all cards, which I believe is when I look back on it should have been like 8-2 to be honest. But that's probably the only amount of rounds I ever lost in a fight. Um, so yeah, definitely skills is always first. You know, what I mean, skills pay the bills and elevate your career. So that's the main thing. The knockouts is just a plus if it happens, but I'm prepared to go the distance and win every round comfortably if it happens to be so. So everything is definitely about the skills and the IQ in that ring.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Just having it, like they say, skills pay bills, and that's what it takes here. In the sport to have that kind of like that mix in there, and be able to use that against the opponents, but also have that element of power there to
For
keep
sure.
the opponents honest. So you have that double advantage in that particular sense. Now we're gonna go into some of the action that happened this weekend. First over in Las Vegas that happened yesterday. I was talking about the Canelo-Berlanga fight that happened there with Canelo getting a unanimous decision. And one of the things I saw there as far as like reactions goes is that there were some folks that gave Berlanga props to be able to get through 12 rounds against Canelo Alvarez. What are your thoughts about the fight and that kind of I guess feeling from some people that says that he was able to get through 12 rounds there against Canelo?
I think it was a great night of boxing, the whole card. You know what I mean? But people giving him props because they didn't expect that. You know what I mean? They think it was just a picked fight that he was kind of untested on that end to be his first world title to be damn near against the face of boxing, and they just thought he wasn't gonna be ready and Canelo was gonna blow through him and he was a fraud and the 16 knockouts had everybody fueled and he wasn't really what he showed. And I thought he did a good showing of himself. I believe his stock went up. I think he definitely going to get more big opportunities and chances to prove himself. But I don't think it's just he lost convincingly, but you could tell like it's how he lost. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
he left it out there. You know what I mean? In certain spots, he had to protect himself because if he didn't, he would have been out of there. But
Mhm.
I think he still competed at a high level. He showed a lot of grit, heart, his bravado, and he's young, real young. I think he's going to bounce back good. So I definitely gave him some respect for that fight, and I think that's what everybody else sees. Because like I said, a lot of people didn't see it going past 6 rounds. Then in that third round, when he got knocked down like that, most people, oh, it's over. It's only a matter of time. And for him to recover the way he did and get good shots off here and there, defend himself well, got a good jab. Um, yeah, and just to still talk his stuff and do little things in there. It just was entertaining. You know what I mean? It was a good,
Mm.
it was a good, it was a good showing for itself for sure. Big
Yeah.
hats and big respect to Edgar. You know what I mean? He'll definitely be back.
Now, I mean, I had been thinking about it because I mean, I was out there for Canelo's last bout against Jaime Munguia, who definitely is a young fighter there, but had a good amount of fights, up to that particular point to face Canelo Alvarez, and it was like almost like a similar situation. I don't know about folks like expecting Canelo to get like an early knockout against Jaime
Mhm.
Munguia, but they highly favored Canelo in that matchup.
For sure.
And then after you seen that Munguia got knocked down by a 3 punch combination, so to speak, there early in that fight, folks thought that maybe Canelo would be able to finish him, but
Right.
it didn't necessarily happen like that. And he was also competitive in that sense. So I guess with Edgar Berlanga, you kind of like had that same element that at least he was still competitive.
Yeah.
Over the course of those 12 rounds, in comparison to how some people thought Jamel Charlo performed
Right.
against
Right. Right.
Canelo
For
after
sure.
his knockdown that happened.
Yeah, they kept their fighting spirit the whole 12. You know what I mean? It was no point where you just like, oh, he didn't gave up. He's just gonna survive and get through it. They was always trying to land shots or you know what I mean. So you gotta respect them type of guys. Some guys is just not your night, or a guy's a better man. And being that they facing a generational talent, being that they young and kind of untested for a little bit, it's there's good showings for themselves. You know what I mean? You would like to see them again far as some fights. But I mean, I don't want to even see this guy anymore, you know? So them type of guys, them good performers to raise your stocks and give them different opportunities with the younger guys in their division. So I see a lot of people saying they want to see Caleb Plant versus Edgar now and things like that. Is you start matchmaking
Hmm.
and seeing these putting these guys in other opportunities, and that's good for their career and their opportunities to be make their own legacy.
Yeah, that's a good point as far as like the effort from some fighters when they face certain opponents, and that they can have an effort that's so bad that you don't want to see them that much, or don't want to see them anymore. There's like one particular thing that I kind of like have here on the boxing source, where one fighter that's at 135 had like a bad year last year, whatever it is, or had a bad performance last year, and I don't necessarily want to see him on my screen ever again. But that's a whole nother story on that.
For sure.
Now you had the rest of the card there. Of course, you had Caleb Plant that had the stoppage over Trevor McCumbee. You had Erislandy Lara that ended up getting a TKO victory there, as Angel Garcia waving the bout off there for his son and Danny Garcia. Other action out there. You had Stephen Fulton get a close decision win
Mhm.
there over Castro, and Royman Villa gets knocked out by Ricardo Salas. So those are
Yeah.
like some of the highlights of the card. What did you think about some of the results of those fights?
I love the Caleb fight. I think that was the fight of the night. To me, outside of the main event, it was because that guy was super strong, man. That Trevor McCumbee guy, he was a bull, and he hurt Caleb early a couple times. And for him to be that big of a puncher, because we didn't know about the Trevor Montgomery guy, you know what I mean? Well, the world
Hmm.
didn't. He had a good record, but we thought Caleb was going in there and smoke him, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, and he hurt Caleb a couple times early, and he got through that adversity. And then for him to be that, he bad, man. That's a bad dude. For him to go in the inside to the puncher and figure out he couldn't fight in the inside and just kept him there and just that was beautiful and just dogged him. But this Trevor McCumbee guy, that's what I mean. Like his performance, we didn't know nothing about him, but we'd like to see him again. You know what I mean? His stock went up even in the loss. Same thing with the with Fulton. I didn't know that guy or nothing about that guy. That guy was tough. He's dropped Scooter. He competed all night. His stock went up. He's going to be in some other fights now, in that weight class and get his chances again. I believe Scooter had a lot of ring rust, to be honest. Then adjusting to that new weight class, but I don't think that I had him winning a little bit more comfortably. I don't think it should have been a split. I only seen I seen dude when he got a 10-8 went other round that he won. Then I have to believe he hurt him in the eighth round.
yeah,
But other than that, I had Scooter outboxing him cleanly. Um, Good fight. Villa getting knocked out. That was an upsetter. That was shocker. So that's another underdog guy that's rose his stock and get in position. That whole card was really raising people's stocks. You know what I mean? That's why you got to take those opportunities when you get the chance to fight on pay-per-view cards or Canelos because the world is watching, and you don't never know who you gonna see or who be gonna become a star that night or getting themselves position. And that card was full of guys like that. Even in the guys that won and then the guys in defeat rose their stock. Except for the co-main event, which was Danny Garcia and and Lara. Lara been they're both older now. Danny had second fight in 4 years. Lot of ring rust, but I don't think nobody liked the effort that Danny put forward in that fight. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It was a snooze fest for sure. And you just don't know if his heart is in it anymore, you know. Um, Lara is going to be Lara. So you can expect a slugfest, barn burner type of fight with Lara. Even though he hasn't been moving as much now, he's still going to be defensively responsible. So you can't blame him for being him. That's what he does. But he got another stoppage win, and he still remains champion. But far as Danny, you know what I mean? You made a lot of money. You had a lot of success. If your heart not in it, and it's no point of go forward with these things and damage your legacy because you never even been down in your career, and as soon as you did, you got stopped, and you've been in there with the best of the best. So if I was him, I'd probably think about hanging him up or having one more homecoming fight, do it big for Philly. You know what I mean? Go out on a high note or whatever the case may be, and sail off in the sunset of your career and enjoy what you have accomplished in your career.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing with Danny Garcia, I mentioned, his last bout was against Jose Benavidez Jr. At the Barclays Center a couple of years ago. And, after that, they didn't have, anything for him. And outside of boxing,
Right.
he was doing well. He had like things real estate, doing promotion with other ventures and things like that. So, him having this position to, fight for a world title there at middleweight was, something big, but,
Right.
you just didn't really see much of an effort from him, in the ring there. So it wasn't like, okay, maybe he had something or tried something and nothing didn't necessarily work. You just didn't really see much of an
Right.
effort from him at all
I think.
during that particular bout. And the thing was, you talk about the knockdown. That was basically from like a setup shot. Like
Yeah.
the left hand wasn't even really that much.
Yeah, he just
There.
and it hit him in a spot that causes really knockdowns. Like he didn't hit flush on the chin. It was like the cheek area. You know what I mean? I believe I think I seen him show effort in like one of the rounds, like where he started throwing to the body a little bit. He finally started letting his hands go. He had a little success in that round, but that was like all that was it. But yeah, but that ring rust is a lot. That was his first fight at 60. He's fighting a very crafty guy. He couldn't get the range and distance. But you just like to see him do a lot more, being the caliber of fighter he is. And that just goes to show if his heart is really in it and how bad he really wants it at this stage of his career. So this is a career that you can get hurt in. So if your heart isn't in it, I just, you know what I mean, go ahead and, you know what I mean, promote other guys, manage other guys, or do something in the sport if your
Yeah.
heart's still in it. And you know what I mean, just enjoy your success and the fruits of your labor.
That's the thing about it. I mean, he has like good strong family out there behind him. Not just with Angel, but his sisters out there. He promotes his sisters out there with music. Has a family of his
Mhm.
own. I think he has a couple of fighters out there in boxing too. So he has those multiple different ventures that he could just go in and just put full effort into that and just not necessarily be back in the ring or try to get back in the ring here. So I mean, this was kind of like his one off in a sense to say, okay, if I still got it or if I still have any
Right.
elements to really compete at a high level, then that would have been, something right there. But he wasn't able to necessarily do that in that particular sense. So, that's pretty much, how that turns out there for Danny Garcia in this sense. Now, you also had like bouts that were on the zone on Friday night. There was one the main event there in Mexico. There you had Thomas Ortiz there against Eduardo Hernandez there that ended in a technical decision, right? And it ended in a technical decision in favor of Eduardo Hernandez. But the thing about it is, like you had Thomas Matisse, he was doing some work there in those last three rounds, and then they ended up stopping the bout. And when they stopped the bout, it looked like they had it for Thomas Matisse because those cuts that were on Eduardo Hernandez, one of them, tell you, it was from a punch, but
Yeah.
then the referee had ruled that it was from a headbutt, and it's like, oh man, see here
Yeah.
we. And so they had the scorecards out there, and then the scorecards had read it in favor of Eduardo Hernandez for Hernandez to get the win. And I'm like, man, see that was a bad break
Yeah.
there for Thomas Matisse. So, what were your thoughts about that fight?
Man, that's my guy. You know what I mean? Thomas, I've been knowing Thomas since the amateur days, right from Cleveland, Ohio. We had the same manager and etc. You know what I mean? We fight on cards and stuff all the time. So I was highly invested into that fight. Um, Thomas is the late starter. He always has been. He feels this was a 12-round fight. You know what I mean? So he is taking those early rounds to study the guy. But once he figured it out, he started coming on strong. The first one was a butt. The second cut was a punch. But the thing is, I just thought it was too early for them to stop it on cuts anyways. Like as soon as he got hurt in the sixth round, It's like soon as Thomas started letting his hands go, it's like immediately they stopped it from the cuts. Like
Yeah.
it was like a full drawn out like examination, and it was like it's like I don't know, like they pulled the plug on the fight. Like okay, we know he up on points and da da da. Let's get it over with. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so I knew he was going to lose the technical decision. But then after that, it killed me because right after they announced the decision, the zone showed the replay of the exact punch hitting the cut, and his coach Push Davis from Cleveland as well said in the fighter meeting that they ruled they implemented replays for calls in the meeting. So that was supposed to be a part of the thing. They let them know that if a guy get knocked down and got caught a slip in between the
Mm-hmm.
round, they will review it ahead, but whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And they had a meeting on that and explained all that, and they didn't use that because he specifically said the second cut. The referee did. He said the second cut is why the fight is getting stopped, and that was clearly caused by a punch. They showed the exact punch. That isolated replay, and I feel like he got screwed over. You know what I mean? It was a going so Thomas. So he probably won 2 of those rounds out of those 6. One for sure. But you had a whole half of the fight where he comes on strong at, and he didn't get his opportunity to even do that. But being that it was from a punch, it should have been a technical knockout. And I feel like he got screwed over, man. And I know they filing a review or a complaint to try to get the decision overturned with the WBA with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and things like that. So we'll see the result of that. But hopefully they do the right thing because the cut was definitely from a punch. It should have been ruled a technical knockout, and or they should order a rematch or something immediately or something of that nature because he was coming on strong and he definitely started hurting Rocky in that 6th round, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it was just only gonna get be more of that to come in the second half of that fight. So I definitely believe he got the short end of the stick on that, and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Batiste definitely had a tough break there against Eduardo Hernandez, and the thing is, there being in Mexico, particularly with Eduardo Hernandez, right? Because I mean,
Right.
I felt like that was interesting because one of the other notable fights there involving Eduardo Hernandez was when he had that bout against Shaki Foster,
Mm-hmm.
and in that particular bout, Shaki Foster got the knockout, but the
Right.
scorecards, it was like, oh man, that was crazy.
Yeah,
They had like.
I had him up though against Oshaki. I didn't have him up by that much, but I had him winning. I had him winning going into the 12th round. But you know what I mean. Oshaki is a great 12th round fighter. These for this past stretch, he's been doing a lot of good things in the 12th round. So he was able to close that show, and he didn't leave it to chance. You know what I mean? So he definitely wasn't going to make it out of there with that title if it did go to that final decision. So he turned it up and did what he had to do. But just for him to get screwed on the 2 fights down the line, you know what I mean? But it's boxing. But
Yeah,
they did the right thing. They ordered a immediate rematch, and now he
mhm.
got a chance to go in there and leave no doubt.
Yep, for sure. That's coming up here pretty soon. That headlining there. They're supposed to be at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
There for that particular rematch there. But we want to go back into your upcoming fight. I know Leo, like I said, you're doing work there in Toledo. Like, how is it to kind of like be out there? Kind of like preparing for bouts of being there, your home area. Like you said, you mentioned Jared Anderson that's out there. I talked with his coach. Derry Riley, a good number of times are there. So, like, how is it to, kind of like do your work or train and prepare there in Toledo?
It's it's good. I do mostly my pre camps here or like the first half of my camp. You know what I mean? I like to it's easy, you know what I mean, because there's a lot of boxers here, so I get good sparring. You know what I mean, whether it's from a handful of top amateurs where those guys they trying to prove themselves against you. They throwing a lot of punches, just every 2 rounds, there's a new one in there. You know what I mean, so they make you work hard. Then you got other seasoned pros that's around here, whether it's Toledo, Cleveland, Detroit, Columbus, Cincinnati. I could go around and get top work being then that's why I'm right here in Ohio. So it's nothing but top fighters around. So it's easy to get good work. My dad's here, so it's easy to get good coaching. You know what I mean? That's with me 24/7 anyway. But Coach Derry Riley, that's my second coach as well. And it's just a real close knit boxing community. So it's always get work and always easy to prepare, you know what I mean? But I like to do my camps out in higher altitude with even more better work or more work that suits me because a lot of guys that don't fight be African American, they either be from somewhere else, so they be Mexican or Dominican or something like that. So Vegas have a lot of those guys, and that altitude is higher, it's hotter, it's easier to lose weight, and you just around boxing. I could just focus just on boxing. You know what I mean? Toledo got comes with a lot of distraction being that's my hometown. But
Mm-hmm.
when I'm out there in Vegas, it's you get distracted when you kicking and partying. But when you focus on boxing, it's a great place to focus just on boxing because there's nothing but boxers around you and top boxers and high key boxers. So I'll be going out there within the next week or so and finishing camp out there like I usually do. But Toledo, it plays its purpose. I like to get in shape here, get sharp here before I go out there because I like to have a good showing of myself in every sparring session in every training session. So I like to make sure myself is prepared here first, and tuned in, and then go out there and do finish everything up and make sure everything is 100% on par how I like it to be before my performances.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like you said, you have those two spots there where you're able to prepare, like in Toledo. Like I said, definitely a boxing town, and then you go into Vegas. You got the spot there. Like, I know about a couple of gyms that are
Mhm.
around the spot in Vegas. There, of course, you got like somewhere top ranked gym that ain't necessarily that far from the strip.
Right.
There, so you got that thing there. Like you said, you may have some distractions there, party scene or whatnot, but there's like other gyms that you could go out there in Vegas. It's just so spread out that you could be away from all of that and
For
still
sure.
get what you need to, do what you need to do when it comes to preparation in that sense. Shout out to brother Terrell Fifth over here. He said like Toledo and Detroit are basically cousins. He says they're like they're pretty much not that far. So yeah,
Yes, Toledo is only 45 minutes from Detroit. So,
yeah.
you know what I mean? I grew up boxing guys from Detroit 24/7 and going through sparring and training at the old crunk with him when Manny was still around when I was younger and all types of stuff. So I've been boxing in Detroit and boxing guys from Michigan and boxing up there and training up there since I started, since we literally was a young kid. So yeah, Detroit is literally next door.
Yeah, the thing is, the Midwest is, very huge in boxing. Of course, you have a number of notable fighters that are there, whether it's from Ohio, Michigan, elsewhere. They're in the Midwest that, kind of
Hmm.
like has the sport of boxing. And pretty much it's the limelight of boxing there within the Midwest and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, here, like I said, you're there, the 130-pound division. You have those aspirations there of becoming a world champion. See if we could have you there, like you said, locked down in the WBO, but also as you mentioned there with this particular fight coming up, that you could be in the WBA rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is it like to try to get into that particular position? Because at least as of right now. We have the world champion as Lamont Rose Jr. From here in the DC area that had
Hmm.
a main event there in a ProBox card a couple of months ago. So what is it like, kind of like being that level of contention there with those other fighters like Emmanuel Navarrete, Lamont Roach Jr., and as you mentioned, Oshaki Foster and those.
I think it's great. You know what I mean? It's just all about getting the guys in the ring. You know what I mean? But it got to make sense for them as well. So I'm not that biased type of guy. You know what I mean? These guys gonna do what makes sense for them and best for their career as well. I know they trying to fight other champions or get big money fights as well. So that's why I just want to put myself in a position to get one of these world titles so we can start unifying because it's gonna make sense then. So I just got to keep doing what I'm doing and I'm trying to get these guys in the ring. So number 9 in WBA now. This having a title attached to it, it should drop me somewhere in the top 5, I believe. Not being in striker range where it makes sense for a Lamont Roach or whatever the case may be. I'm ranked in all the sanctioning bodies, but I just know if I get the and the route I'm taking is the big will be dethroning the biggest guy in the division, the biggest name in the division, being that, and whether it's Oscar Valdez or Emmanuel Navarrete, whoever wins. So me knocking one of those chips off the puzzle, uh, it got to make sense now for any of the guys, whether it's me versus Shaki, me versus Lamont, me versus who got the IBF. It don't matter. So I got the route that got the biggest names in it. So I'm trying to knock one of them guys off, man. Then I could be the top guy in the division. I could call the shots or get the fights that I've really been wanting and chasing, and it'll make sense for the guys that got the other belts as well. So it's power plays on the floor after that.
Yeah, for sure. Like you mentioned that there with what's going on with Emmanuel Navarrete and Oscar Valdez. Currently, a lot of people view Navarrete as the top fighter out there in the super featherweight division, and so you got to see what happens here with this rematch between Navarrete and Valdez, and the winner, pretty much would still have that standing there at number one,
Exactly.
and then you'll be able to just face them, beat them, and then you become number one there
Exactly.
at 130,
You
and
become the man
everybody
by
be looking for you.
you become the man by beating the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, and when I become the man, I'm open. My doors open to all opportunities that make sense. You know what I mean? I want to unify them titles. You know what I mean? And potentially be the first undisputed champion at 130. That'll set me in the history books right there. So I'm going for greatness. You know what I mean? I'm getting older in my career. I'm still young, but
right.
time the clock is rolling. So I want to leave my mark on the sport, and that'll be my way. You know what I mean? Becoming a 4-time world champion, undisputed, the first ever undisputed 130-pound champion before I go off to lightweight or whatever. If I become unified, then I'm going to lightweight, whatever. But I want to get as many big, impactful fights that I can while I can, and I'm a fighter that don't turn down guys. That makes sense. So. I'm all for it, and I'm open to do business with everybody. Ain't no bad blood, ain't no beef. It's just let's get this money together and make some great fights and help each other legacies.
Yeah, for sure. That the 130-pound division, with the history of it, at least what has it been like about 5, 6, 7 years plus or whatever it is. We ain't really had no unification bouts. It
Right.
only took until what happened with Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez
Yeah.
to actually have a unification bout. And so, you'll be able to do something that nobody else has really had ever done. Is become undisputed there at 130. If you're able to, like you said, get through piece by piece by piece there and get the belts that way.
Right. So we just got to see what the future holds, but I'm all for it, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm all for it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Now, real quick here, before we close off this interview thing. Now we got like more action that's coming up here, in boxing. At least for this week, we got like a fight coming up on Friday there in the super middleweight division, and then on Saturday we got like Riyadh season card that's headlined by world heavyweight title bout. First with the fight on Friday, you got Jaime Munguia versus Eric Brazilian. There in the super middleweight division. Of course, Jaime Munguia coming off of his loss to Canelo Alvarez, but was still a contender there at super middleweight. Just got to see how he does coming off of his first professional loss. So you got like any quick thoughts on that bout?
I wasn't even aware of that bout, to be 100% honest.
Okay.
And I don't know nothing about the guy he's fighting. So hopefully he does a good showing for himself, bounce back. I don't think he took a career changing type of punishment, so I think he'd be the same, and if not more hungrier to be having that 12-round experience with Canelo, that he feel like he could go in there and beat them other guys, no problem, and things like that. So I think he's gonna go out and do what he needs to be done. So I don't really have too much thoughts on him because I don't know too much about his opponent. And then as far as the heavyweight bout, I'm looking forward. They both been looking great. Joshua looking like Joshua of old as late. Um, he going back to the things that made him who he is. So and Dane Du Bois is a big boy. He's been looking good. He's been doing his thing. So I look forward to that fight. That's gonna be a good fight. I don't really know who I'm picking. I favor Joshua a little more, but that's why they fight the fight. So I'm ready to see that. I don't think it should be for world title though. I think Usyk should still be undisputed champion. But it all roads lead. It all makes sense. Whoever wins, they probably get Usyk after the next Fury fight, or whoever wins out of those two guys. So it all lined up for it to be an undisputed champion again. But definitely a 5-star type of fight with Dubois and Joshua. So I'm definitely gonna be tuned into that one.
Yeah, I mean, the IBF, as I say, the
Yeah, they
IBF,
don't play.
IBF,
They don't play.
yeah, the IBF, the IBF, and you had the thing there with Daniel Dubois. He was able to, defeat the guy that was the at the time the mandatory there for the IBF. There with Philip Hergovich, so he ended up being the mandatory, and then
Right.
of course with Usyk, it's like, well, why would I even entertain going up against an IBF champ when I could have another rematch with
Yeah.
Fury for
But they had the but that's what I don't be liking about it, because they know going into it they be having a rematch clause. So to strip them when you know they already have another fight set up, it just be kind of like it be kind of off a little bit. Like
yeah,
same thing with like Terrence and Earl. When they know they had a rematch clause, as soon as he won, he gets stripped a month later when you know they already had a rematch clause going in. So that just be the only thing
yeah,
that be kind of throwing me off. Like, how can I fight for this guy that but I already when I'm already contracted
contract to
with this
rematch.
clause
Yeah,
to a rematch. So
yeah, you already contract to rematch. I mean, this happened, multiple times with the IBF, but
right,
I talked about years ago, 2015, when Tyson Fury defeated Latimer Klitschko. They had a rematch clause in that, and they still, the IBF still stripped Tyson Fury.
yeah,
So it'd be crazy at times, but that's why I say with that history there, it's like the IBF just do what the IBF do in
right,
that
for sure.
sense. You know what I mean? So there's definitely that. Now I would say, first off, like who would you say are fighters that you look up to, or like fighters that you would say that you're a fan of, like currently in the sport of boxing?
Currently, I'm a big fan of boxing, so I watch all the fights. Like I'm always watching boxing. But so I like, man, I like everybody. I like everybody that everybody else like. You know what I mean? I tune into all the big fights. I get the pay-per-views, whatever. So I watch the Terrence Crawfords, the Earl Spence, the Inoues, the Canelos, the Tanks, the Devin Haney's, the Shakurs. I watch all the fights. So whoever fight is. So I can't really say who I look up to or who I'm a fan of, because I'm just a student of the sport. So I watch all the fights. All the
Yeah,
fights that
just
come
fan
on,
of
I'm watching.
boxing. Just everybody that fight, I'm a fan
Yeah, I
of.
know the undercard fighters. I know the mid-level card fighters. I know the main event fighters, the co-main. I watch. I've been around boxing my whole life. I know most of all the guys personally. I watch. I watch. I like watching boxing. So it's not really like, oh, who are you a fan of? Do you like this spectator? I watch boxing. So I'm
Mm,
tuned in to everybody.
gotcha. Um, okay. What would you say would be your dream fight?
Dream fight. To be honest, I really don't know right now, because I be trying to be realistic as possible. You
Okay, yeah.
know, um, so dream fight me right now would be against Emmanuel Navarrete. You know what I mean? Then right after that, I would have a different dream fight. You know what I mean? Like when I might have a dream fight for the lightweight division once I get there. Might have a dream fight for the 1 to 40 division when I get there. I just try to be realistic for myself, because boxing decides who you fight. You can look at this person gonna be this, but he could get knocked out 2 times in a row. Now he's considered a bum, and you know what I mean. So it's
Yeah,
hard to
be
say
basically out of the picture, Yeah.
exactly. So it just be hard to say who's my dream fight is. But right now, my dream fight would be with the fight that would be most significant to myself in my career, which would be the biggest name at 130 right now, being Emmanuel Navarrete. So after that, I'd be successful in that, then I'll have a different dream fight. But right now, realistically, logically, and what makes most sense for me, my dream fight right now would be against Emmanuel Navarrete.
Gotcha, man. Hey, shout out to Terrell the fifth there again. He said, "Hey, man," he said, "Yeah, just keep training, brother, getting all the experience." And he says, "Hey, humble but confident. That's a good combination right there."
For sure,
Most
for sure.
definitely.
God graces with the humble.
Yeah, exactly. Did you have that? Like I said, you're preparing here for your bout against Jose Guardado, part of this super featherweight title. About you got the NABO, you got that WBA. It should be WBA International
Yeah.
title there on the line on that ProBox TV card that's coming up there in Dallas, Texas. There. So, anything else you wanted to give or let the fans know here? Before you get your continue your preparation for your bout.
Man, just I hope everybody tune in. If you can make it out there, make it out. But if not, tune in on ProBox. Tickets are on sale now on Ticketmaster. It's a great card of boxing. Future world champion to being myself, two former world champions and contenders and prospects. Um, Best of US versus best of Mexico. 10 fights going down. It's gonna be a great card. So tune in and support the event. Keep as far as if you follow me or just coming along and enjoy the ride of my career. You can follow me on Instagram at Albert Prince Bell. I'm on Twitter at Albert Bell 49 and Facebook Albert Prince Bell. I'm an easygoing guy. Fight for myself, my family, and things that matter to me, and y'all as well. So I wouldn't be nothing without the people that supporting. So just keep supporting me, and God grace with the humble, and what's delayed is not denied. My time is coming.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said there with that word, man. What's delayed is not necessarily denied. So you just keep pressing, keep pushing, and you're gonna get that world title opportunity there in 2025. So definitely looking forward to that there, man. It's the Prince Albert Bell here with the Bison. So it's big thanks for you to join us here on this particular podcast, man.
Most definitely. And thanks for having me, man. It was an honor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So that's our guy there, Prince Albert Bell, and he'll definitely be getting ready for his upcoming bout, October 26th. There, like I said, in Dallas, when he goes up against Jose Ivan Guardado. There, and like I said, it's going to be on ProBox TV. But hey, if you can, see if you'll be able to go ahead and check him out. If you're in the Texas area, get tickets there, so you'll be able to check us out. Whether it's on the boxingsource.net or just check us out. On social media. Once we get more details as far as like tickets and everything like that, but you can also follow him, Albert Prince Bell, on Instagram there. So, and he'll definitely have more details as far as like getting tickets for that particular event there in Dallas, Texas. There in October. So, like I said, once again, big thanks for him to join here on this particular episode of the Boxing Source podcast. Had a couple of other things here. As far as what had been going down this weekend. Like I said, that Las Vegas fight card there. We had about 20,000 at the T-Mobile Arena for that bout or for that fight card. They're headlined by Canelo versus Berlanga. I thought that was pretty interesting there. Of course, you had that UFC fight card that was happening at the Sphere, at the same time. But I'm not a UFC guy by any sense of the imagination. At UFC, MMA, I don't do it. I just don't do it. So you can't don't kind of ask me any questions in reference to what happened in that fight card. I can't tell you because I have no idea what the results are for that particular bout. You know what I'm saying? Had no idea there. But we had, like I said, we have more that's coming up here in boxing. I had mentioned a top ranked fight card that's going to be headlined by Jaime McGee versus Eric Bazinian. That's coming up there. So that's going to be an interesting one because you got Jaime McGee coming off of his loss to Canelo Alvarez. You got Eric Bazinian, that's a pretty good contender there in the super middleweight division with an undefeated record. There. I have to see. Let me. He's actually ranked at number 6 in the WBC. I mentioned earlier. He's ranked number 6 currently in the WBC. I have to check if the WBC has updated their rankings for this month. But as of what I had from last time, he was ranked at number 6. Jaime McGee is ranked at number 2. So we had some good, like I said, some good matchups that have been happening there in the super middleweight division, right? And I mentioned a whole thing too with the IBF, vacant IBF belt. William Skull, Vladimir Shishkin. We could have had Lester Martinez versus Joe Sean James, but we all know what happened with that. So yeah, that super middleweight division has been very busy here this year, and we got a couple more fights that are coming up that we'll be looking forward to in that particular division. Wanted to see if I check the whole card here real quick. You got Richard Torres there going up against Joey Duisco. I think that was put up to the co-feature bout on that card. So you do have that. Emiliano Vargas is on that card. Charlie Suarez is on that card as well. So that'll be on Friday for Top Rank. Now, as far as like me, am I going to be able to watch it live? I don't know about all that because I will be in the UK for that bout between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois for the IBF heavyweight title. That's going to be a huge event there. Oh man, but you know what though? We got to continue this boxing talk. I wanted to get the thoughts of my guy that's coming in here. Of course, one of our great guests here on the Boxing Source. Y'all know him. He's the scholar, man. He's the scholar. He's the greatest. It's the boxing academic, man. What's going on?
What's going on, JR? You know you don't like me that much, JR. You stop faking for the fans, man. Come on. No, I'm just playing. You my guy. You my boy.
Yeah,
man, you going to the UK?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be out there, man.
For the fight?
Yeah.
Man, that is what's up, man.
Yeah, man.
I heard they got bad food. Don't beat me up, UK people, but that's what I heard. It's bland.
Hey, listen, man. I'll try the fish and chips, but the breakfast though, I don't know about the breakfast. I don't know about the breakfast, dog.
Speaking of fish and chips, I got fish sticks and chips that I'm putting in the oven right now. Tell Terrell eat his heart out.
Where?
Tell the chef I said that.
Where? Hey, so you had, of course, what happened there yesterday with Canelo and Berlanga. What were your thoughts about that? The performance, because when I was talking with Prince Albert Bell, I kind of said with Berlanga, it almost was similar to the Munguia fight as far as the effort there from Berlanga is he didn't fight to. It didn't look like he fought to not get knocked out, but you still knew that he really didn't have much of a shot to get back and fight after the knockdown that was scored in the third round.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was almost exactly like the Munguia fight. Someone who, well, it was a little different because I don't know. What have you done for me lately? So I don't remember how the first few rounds of the Munguia fight went, but I recall it being at least a bit more exciting. In this fight, Canelo jabbed more than probably he normally jabs, which I think he did that against Munguia early. But shoot, Canelo was leading action, and Berlanga was just taking punches, and so it was very similar to the Munguia fight. But I feel like Munguia at least exerted himself just a little bit more in the beginning. And then once he realized this could get ugly, then that's when he sort of just cruised to just make it to the finish line. Now, one thing you got to say about both of these guys, which allowed him for Canelo to shake his hand and be like, hey man, you did the job you were supposed to do. You stayed there and you were punching bag for 12 rounds. Canelo didn't say that, but he gained Canelo's respect because, man, he took a bunch of shots, man. Luckily, it wasn't one of those beatings that you see somebody and you oh, they won't recover after this. But his will, man, he just didn't want to get knocked out, I guess. And, he just took a bunch of shots. But, Canelo literally won every facet of the fight. He had some shots where he landed. And the one shot that he landed that I'm kind of mad at him for, you get a clean shot on Canelo Alvarez. I can't say many people who have had a clean shot like that on Canelo Alvarez. You get a clean shot. Clean, the cleanest shot you probably gonna ever get on Canelo Alvarez. His back is turned, he's not protecting himself, and you don't hurt Canelo Alvarez. Now we know Canelo do them neck exercises like Mike Tyson, and we know that concussions happen because of that, your brain moving and then your neck sort of moving back. And Canelo has definitely worked on strengthening his neck, and that's probably why he don't get knocked out. But you got to be kidding me. You got a free shot and you don't take advantage of this free shot as a professional boxer. Like Canelo maybe breaks himself at the end, but a free shot. Like even I say this with a grain of salt because we know Mayweather before his hands and stuff. Like Mayweather at least got people's respect and he was more offensive. But Mayweather knocked people out if he get a free shot on them. Like I'm a bit disappointed because he could have changed the fight instantly and made it a more competitive fight at that point if he'd have hurt Canelo. All off of Canelo's mistake. And I want to believe that Canelo did think it was the end of the round. And that can happen to anybody. And so with that mistake, I can't believe Berlanga didn't capitalize. That's like bad on him because that could have been his end into the fight. But then he bit down, toward round 10 and round 12 because at some point it looked like Canelo was going to keep pressing the issue, and then he bit down and he wanted to finish the fight. And Canelo didn't necessarily let up off of him. He just told himself he wasn't going to quit. And then toward the end, he started taking the shots better too. So you got to give him that he does have cojones, that he was taking the shots and told himself he wasn't going to get knocked out today. You can't say what's going to happen tomorrow, but today he said he wasn't going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
But one-sided fight, it'd be interesting again to see Canelo fight somebody that makes him exert himself. Obviously, we know who that is. But outside of that, I mean, you got to get Canelo. He said he fought somebody young, but we all knew the outcome of this. I thought he was gonna get knocked out. Let me say that.
Yeah.
So him not getting knocked out, he does get brownie points because he made up his mind. But man, it's the same old thing. Canelo fighting somebody that he's much better than.
The Terrell the Fifth there says those New York City fighters are tough even when they are average. There, he says they have a big mouth that show heart. And he also said, as far as like potential matchups, he said at first I didn't want to see Plant versus Berlanga, but now I do.
That would be interesting. That would Plant Berlanga just styles and the way that Plant can hurt him, but you wouldn't go in that fight thinking Plant would hurt him. So the fact that the way Plant sort of like fights, it makes it an interesting matchup. But will it be a like a one-sided boxing match where Plant just gonna literally just box his head off and then he don't get to Plant? That's the question I ask.
That would be interesting. There, that'd be interesting. We got another great guest here to join us here on this particular episode of the Boxing Source podcast that will give also his assessment of the Canelo versus Berlanga fight. Of course, he is the host of Brunch Boxing. Brother Matt is in the building. What's happening?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? My guy,
what's up with you?
In the building. What's going on?
Yes, sir.
The Boxing Academic.
I need to come on your show, man. I just ain't been watching boxing.
Wait, well, come on. Well, how are you going to be the Boxing Academic if you don't watch boxing?
Man, I got a new job, man, and just normalizing, man. You know what I'm saying?
I understand. But last night, I enjoyed the pay-per-view overall. I thought that we got a fight of the year candidate with Plant versus McCumbee. That was something. Like the ebbs and flows, the kind of war, how Plant changed his game plan and went to the inside when he realized that McCumbee was landing some unorthodox leaping shots. That was just a great fight overall. So when you guys say that you wouldn't mind seeing Plant versus Berlanga, I would love to see Plant versus Berlanga. I would also love to see Plant versus Jamal Charlo, depending on how Charlo looks when he comes back later this year. That has a storyline already. Now, the main event, I'll be honest, I thought Berlanga was a bit what I call a game loser. It's what I used to call Arturo Gatti, like a guy who's not willing. He doesn't feel like he could win the fight. You can tell that he doesn't think he could win the fight. So for me, Berlanga, I understand he lasted 12, but the reason why he lasted 12 was because He didn't go for anything. He didn't take any chances. Canelo performed well. I am growing a bit concerned that Canelo can't get these guys out of there. This is like what, his sixth straight decision?
Yeah,
You
pretty
know,
much.
so
Yeah, ever since his loss to Bivol, as I mentioned, he's been having decision wins ever since.
his last stoppage was ironically Caleb Plant in 2021.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if we have seen the best of Canelo. I think the time is now for the Canelo Benavidez fight, and I don't just say that as a fan 'cause I want to see the fight. I say that because I think that this is the best Canelo that we're gonna get, and from here on out, he's probably gonna keep giving us diminishing returns. So I don't want him to go into a Benavidez fight where he's just gonna get beat up. I want to feel like it's still a 50-50 fight, and that's where I'm at with it right now.
Now, as far as like the overall effort or what I would say activity there from Canelo Alvarez, well, I would say he kind of like throws about say 35 punches around per round or something like that. So you don't necessarily see him being, that like where he could put like a lot of combinations together, unless if it's like, close on the inside or something like that. But yeah, I think right now is probably the only open time that you could probably see a Canelo Benavidez fight. And like I said, I'd be more interested in that particular fight than any other option that Canelo would have at this particular point. They mentioned earlier about what was brought up in the post-fight presser there with Canelo Alvarez when someone mentioned Terrence Crawford, and he didn't really want to address it that much at all there at that particular point. So, and like I said, I've said this multiple times, I'm not really interested in that fight either. So why even kind of bring that up? You know what I'm saying?
I completely agree. But the most interesting thing to me that came out of that post-fight press conference is that Canelo basically said he's staying with PBC. He's saying he's going to sit down with Al Heyman and Louis DeCubas and discuss, who he's going to fight next. So clearly, that partnership has been very beneficial for both parties. And it's good to see that they're going to still be working together because I'll be honest. These Canelo events on the PBC platform are some of the biggest, like, feeling events of his career. I haven't felt this way about Canelo events since the first and second GGG fights. So it's good to see that Canelo is back doing these massive events. I would like to see. I wouldn't mind the Crawford fight. To be honest with you, I definitely wouldn't mind it. I found it very interesting that Crawford called him out because. Isn't Crawford supposed to be fighting Sebastian Fundora for the WBO junior middleweight title? So it's like,
but hey, but who? Like, come on, man, come on, y'all, come on, y'all, man. I don't even want to go into all that because, I mean, we basically said like, y'all really think that he is going to go ahead and face Sebastian Fundora? Like really, you guys? Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, it's just funny to me, man. So, but I wouldn't mind seeing Crawford versus Canelo. I wouldn't mind seeing. Just gonna sound stupid, but I wouldn't mind seeing a Plant rematch with Canelo. There's like a lot of different combinations of fighters, like from like 160 to 175, that I think would be very interesting. But obviously, number one on my list is Canelo versus David Benavidez.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mentioned the thing there with David Benavidez, being part of a potential pay-per-view card scheduled for December 14th there. And, of course, you talked with David Benavidez, at least a couple times. And at least here in these past few weeks, he said that, he would, want to get through this particular bout And then after the December bout, that he would want to get the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev, right? And I also said that, well, Canelo has had interest in fighting Bivol again if Bivol becomes the undisputed super or undisputed light heavyweight champion, right? So depending on what happens on October 12th, we could have a little bit of a race as to who will face the undisputed light heavyweight champion there. So I think that would be interesting to see how Canelo and Benavidez try to get their name in the pot to face the winner of that bout between Bivol and Beterbiev. So that would basically be something that. You did mention Caleb Plant. He had that win over Trevor McCumbee there. That was a good, like you said, that was a very good scrap. You know what I'm saying? Want to get y'all's thoughts on that particular bout there real quick.
I don't want to be judged by my answer, but I feel like I am. I don't feel like this is a safe space for me to express.
Oh, come on.
No, you I feel safe with you. But he who I will not name.
Oh,
listen,
like
I'm gonna tell you right now. You better not say that you didn't watch the fight. That's all I'm gonna say.
so I'm gonna say what I say to the women. You want the truth or the lie?
Oh my God. Oh, yo, bro, listen. Whatever before you go to bed tonight, go back and watch this fight. This fight was so good. This was the best fight of the night. Wait, you missed the best fight of the night. What is wrong with this guy?
Yeah, I did. I was watching the Auburn game, and I shouldn't have been watching the Auburn game.
Okay, I understand that.
I shouldn't have been watching the Auburn game. That's what I'm saying.
I understand that.
Like I should have watched the Caleb Plant fight instead of the Auburn game.
I understand that, man. War Eagle, man. War Eagle.
I don't know, man. We ain't as bad as Florida State, but
Hey,
we need to get it together.
That's a fact.
It could always get worse, but yeah, I'll go back and watch it.
That is the absolute fact. At least y'all late Florida State right now. Goodness.
Or Florida. So there's that too.
There's definitely that too. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to get Brother Matt's thoughts on the middleweight title fight between Erislandy Lara and Danny Garcia. Because I've heard some reports that maybe Brother Matt, you weren't 100% focused on that particular bout. Confirmed or unconfirmed?
All right. Full disclosure, I fell asleep in round two. And I did not wake back up until the Mexican national anthem. So I did not see that entire bout. I mean, from what I saw, it was a filling out process in round one. But from all reports, it was the same thing, lather, rinse, repeat in every single round. So I guess I did not miss much. It's unfortunate that Danny Garcia went out the way that he went. Maybe he's gonna retire, maybe he's not. I guess we'll see. But he didn't look good. And let's be honest, Erislandy Lara, he didn't look much better, but I do think he could do much better. He just kind of knew right away that Danny Garcia wasn't gonna give him any real resistance or engagement. So he was just content to jab. He like out of all of his punches, he threw like 262 punches. About 192 of them were jabs. So it's like he was just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me just get through this. He's not gonna do nothing to me. Let me just get through this and get to the next matchup.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was pretty much what he did. He was just coasting, through that bout. And then for Danny Garcia to just go down on one knee to a grazing left hand, that pretty much like said everything right there. Danny Garcia, like I was saying before, man, he tried his hand on seeing if he could become a 3-division world champ, but hey, he wasn't having much of an effort there at all against Erislan De Lara, and so that was it. It was a wrap. His father there, trainer Angel Garcia, said, "Nah, we ain't getting them, out there for any more of those rounds."
So Jr., I want to ask this just because I want to be thorough.
All right.
Were you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know what I did during the fight. Maybe I did fall asleep and I just don't remember. But I stopped watching it toward the middle, and then I came back in at some point toward the end, and then I'm like, "Oh dang, he hit him!" And I'm like, "Did he go on the knee?" And I'm like, "Is it over?" So Danny Garcia is a warrior, and he has given us himself throughout his whole career. When I say this, this is no indictment on Danny Garcia because we know who Danny Garcia is. Danny Garcia has always given us his best. But, the version of himself that came into the ring, he didn't really want to be in the ring. I mean, maybe he wanted the money, but he didn't want to be in the ring for whatever reason, right? His body couldn't contend, whatever reason, mentally, whatever. But we can say his dad stopped the fight, but do we really know what happened? When he walked to the corner and then he said something to his dad said, "Are you sure?" And then that's when his dad said, "Stop the fight." Danny said, "I don't know, but I feel like he said, I ain't got it, or I'm done," or something like that, which is fine. He knew he wasn't trying to go no more because you've been at the ring 2-3 years. Like, Deontay Wilder, whoever, right? Like, not many people can overcome that. But I mean, Danny wasn't in it mentally. And yeah, we can say his father stopped the fight, but did his father really stop the fight, or did Danny say, I'm done? And there's no indictment on Danny Garcia because Danny Garcia is the champion. He's always been the champion. But the version he went into the ring, which it happens, right? Like, we've seen guys do that and then they come back stronger. But, opposite in motion, opposite at rest, stay at rest. And Danny Garcia has had a great career. When he was on it, he did his thing. He upset people who would probably have said that he was going to win a lot of those fights, especially at 140 or whatever. And he deserves everything. So I'm doing a compliment sandwich because I want to give him his props.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. Like I said, I mean, he had his reign at 140 pounds. He was able to become world champion at 147 pounds. Had attempted, being a unified champion against Keith Thurman, fell short. Had the opportunity to, win the WBC belt against Sean Porter, fell short on that. And then, when Errol Spence came back, from his accident, we had that fight against Errol Spence Jr. and, pretty much got, beat on in that too. So, he kind of like has had that career where, he's had the success at certain points, but, also, kind of like fell short to being on the upper echelon, so to speak, of, fighters. You know what I mean? So at least here with the welterweight division, like how the welterweight division is defined as far as like this current era or the era that just ended. You have your Sean Porter, your Danny Garcia, your Keith Thurman, your Errol Spence, your Terrence Crawford, among others. And out of like all of those that I mentioned, you pretty much like would have Danny Garcia at the bottom since he had lost to just about all the other fighters that I mentioned. So yeah,
But he's probably above Adrian Broner though.
Oh yeah, he's definitely above. Yeah, he's above Adrian Broner. There, even though Adrian Broner had held a welterweight title at that point, but after losing to Marcos Maidana, he really hadn't gotten back up to that point, so to speak. So But I didn't necessarily like kind of like add Adrian Broner, to that particular era, even though Adrian Broner, faced Sean Porter, for example, there during that time period. But with Danny Garcia, he could go ahead and hang it up and say that he's had a very good career here in boxing, and he has like a lot of things that he had been doing outside the ring over those past 2 years, and he could just continue to do that and be very well. So I don't see much of a reason for him to kind of like continue his career at this particular point. But who knows here, especially in boxing, So gotta see how that kind of like turns out in that particular sense there, man. Yeah, we talked about say the plan versus McCombie. But also the thing there with Stephen Fulton against Carlos Castro. I thought that was a really close bout. You had that knockdown that happened there to Stephen Fulton there in the fifth round, where he threw like a 1-2 combination, and then he just stood there. And then when he stood there, Carlos Castro threw a 1-2 combination, and the right hand just hit him more flush, and then put Stephen Fulton down to the canvas, and he was able to get up from that. You also had another scare there in round 8, but went through those full 10 rounds, and two of the judges felt like Stephen Fulton won the majority of the rounds. One judge gave him like 6 rounds to 4, and another judge gave him 7 rounds to 3 in his favor for him to get the split decision win. That was his first bout at 126. So first Matt, like what did you think about Stephen Fulton's performance there against Carlos Castro there?
I'll be honest. I thought it was overall a good performance because of the way he was able to bite down and come back. I am a little concerned about him getting dropped by Castro, because Castro is not really a heavy hitter, especially at the top level. Castro hasn't really shown much pop at the top level. Most of his knockdowns and knockouts came early on in his career. So I was concerned about that. But I did love the way that Stephen Fulton, basically showed some fight, showed some dog, and was able to come back and win the fight. That 10th round, man, showed me a lot, because the fight was really hanging in the balance, and Stephen Fulton was able to outwork Castro in that 10th round and secure the victory. So we'll see what's next for him,
Yeah, I mean, he got through a little bit of adversity. He's been, of course, part of some close bouts in the past, while being at 122. And so he has this thing here at 126 against Carlos Castro, who, has faced like the likes of Brandon Figueroa and Luis Neri there earlier in his professional career. But, like you said, he really doesn't have that many knockout wins on his record. So that, could be a little bit of a concern there for Fulton. With him having, potential bouts there against, like guys that I mentioned, rematch, that could be in the future there for Stephen Fulton, against Brandon Figueroa, but also against maybe Angelo Leo, who's, the IBF featherweight champion. So it would be really interesting to see what happens here with Stephen Fulton here, in the near future, as far as like his future bouts are concerned. Academic, were you able to catch this bout here between Fulton and Castro on the free portion?
I feel like that's like, yes, I caught it.
No, because hey, Terrell misses a number of these bouts sometimes when I bring it up.
Okay, that's true. That's true. So I can't say who won, because I wasn't like watching the fight to score per se. But one thing that I did notice is, and I hope the Philly conglomerate don't come out to me when I say this, is just a observation. And I'm going to borrow a saying from someone from another boxing channel What's his name? Matthew Faltz Boxing. He says we fight how we train. And one thing I see as a similarity with a certain number of Philly boxers, and I'm gonna try to articulate what I'm saying. So Julian J Rock Williams, Boots, Fulton, and it's one more fighter I can think of. I can't remember who, but it's always like they do a great job of, like, at times they do a great job of catching punches. They do a great job with their hands out. Their hands are in front of them, and they do a great job of stopping punches before they land on their face sometimes. But other times it's always a space where their hands are out in front of them. And it's like, sometimes they don't know what to do with the hands. Like, the hands aren't stopping the shot. The hands are just out there. And imagine your hands are out like you fighting, and they're out, yeah, like that, but they're out further. They're out further, like they're trying to, like you're doing a 90 degrees, yeah. And so they just literally have their hands out, and they let people get past their arms, and then their hands are out, but then people are throwing shots behind their arms. And so that's what happens to Julian J Rock Williams. That's what happened to Boots sometimes. And that's also what happened to Stephen Fulton. Like, they have great active guards, but it's like sometimes they just like stop. They just like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but people get behind them and then they get clean shots off on them. They get clean shots behind the guard. So what?
It's almost like a lapse.
It's like a lapse, because they do a great job when they are blocking, and they are, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that Philly style, they do a great job, but then it's like lapses where they literally get hit clean and their arms are out at 90 degrees and people are getting clean shots behind their arms. I'm just simply noticing observation, and that's what happened to him a couple times, at least. I can't say a number, a couple times. And I can vividly remember a few times where it happened to Julian J Rock Williams as well. But they have, you know, good styles, and, you know, obviously they're cerebral. Them guys know how to think through the fight, and they can tell you a move before you do it, but it's just like lapses. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's very interesting there with, like I said, with Stephen Fulton. Boots Ennis may have, some of those instances as well. J Rock, he's got caught, like I said, with Jason Rosario or a few other fighters that, he had been going up against that, it kind of like fell him in a sense. So I think that's something that, I guess they would have to work on, as far as, like, staying sharp with their guard and making sure that it's, close to the chest, instead of, being out in the open there too much, to where, fighters could just reach around that guard, or just do like a sharp jab that would go right through the guard. You know what I mean? So,
and both of them happen.
Yeah. So I guess, Stephen Fulton may have to, try to shore that up here, before he goes up against the more upper echelon guys in the featherweight division out there. Just one other thing there. I know I didn't really mention much from the Rolly Romero Manuel James thing, because that went through the full 10 rounds, and it was just pretty much like a walkthrough victory for Rolly Romero on that one. But I wanted to get into the more in depth into the Roman Villa versus Ricardo Salas fight, because it looked like a number of people favored Roman Villa in this bout there, but I kind of like seeing this like from early in the bout, that Ricardo Salas was the much quicker, much faster fighter when it came to throwing the punches and landing the punches. And then they got into close quarters, and Ricardo Salas just catches them with a sharp shot that just puts Roman Villa to the ground, and he didn't get up from that, man. So ended up being a knockout victory there for Ricardo Salas, and that puts him, I guess, right in the mix there in the in the welterweight division out there, and kind of like knocks Roman Villa completely out of the contentions there at 147 pounds are there. Like Roman Villa, at the very least, was ranked at number 9 in the WBC rankings. I didn't see. I was going to check if they had like updated those rankings here as of yet, but nope, they haven't. It'll probably be sometime later this week that they update them. But yeah, you had Roman Villa there. Of course, he was coming off of his loss to Jerome Bucenis there last year, so you had to see what he was going to do here at the very least against Ricardo Salas, and a number of folks kind of picked Roman Villa to get this win, and well, didn't necessarily happen there for him, and ended up getting knocked out. But he really doesn't have much of a defense anyway. So going up against a fighter that had like a quicker release when it comes to his shots, that kind of like led to some trouble. Even though he had some good moments there against Ricardo Salas, Ricardo Salas was able to answer pretty much like everything that Roman Villa had when it came to the offense. So him getting knocked down in that particular sense, it was like, yeah, it was shocking, but in one sense, but you kind of like seeing there during the fight that Salas was kind of like beating him to the punch in a number of those occasions there. Any assessment of or reaction to what happened in that particular fight from y'all?
That was probably my second favorite fight of the night, man. They was throwing them hands, man. That was some good stuff. I was actually surprised that Roman Villa didn't get up. He was really, really rocked, man. Like he was even like he looked out of it even after, like well after the 10 count. That shot, it was a very short right hand that it basically crushed him. It was really, really bad, man. They could fight all day, man. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Like, just keep fighting. Like, I mean, listen, neither one of these guys at championship level. Why don't you just be like Gotti Ward or some shit like that, and just beat the hell out of each other like 3-4 times for the people?
Yeah, people will pay for it. I mean, after they see what happened with this bout, it's like, hey, put him back in the ring again. Put him back in the ring again. But yeah, I mean, but that was like an interesting shot though, because it was like a short shot that hit the target. But at least for me, when like watching it in real speed, it just really didn't seem like it had that much impact, on Roman Villa there. Like you didn't hear like a definitive sound out of it. You didn't like see like any sweat or whatever could happen. Like what I was saying in comparison. Like when Angelo Leo caught Luis Alberto Lopez for that knockout, that was like a short hook. But you seen, when that happened, it was like, yeah, it was a wrap. But here with this, you kind of like seeing the short thing kind of land on Roman Villa, but I guess he just couldn't really get up, man, or something. I don't know. Maybe it like hit some type of a nerve in his body or something. That kind of paralyzed him. I guess that could still happen. I mean that could happen in boxing, man. It could happen in boxing. Academic, you got anything on it?
I was still watching the Auburn fight, and I had that on my phone, so I was like, going back and forth. The Auburn game, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you weren't able to fully catch what was going on there live on that tip.
Yeah, I saw the knockout, but I wasn't following along.
Hold on, I couldn't really hear what you were saying there, Matt.
So you're telling me that he missed the 2 best fights of the night? That's crazy.
Hey Matt, fix your mic if you're gonna talk crap about me. Okay?
No. I'm gonna talk shit. How you missed the 2 best fights of the night? I don't get it, man.
Because some of us have football teams in the beginning of the season where we're very hopeful, Matt. Some of us are still hopeful, even though we lost 1 game, Matt. I'm still hopeful. SEC play hasn't came in. I'm hopeful, man.
College football, so I don't know
SEC,
what the hell
baby.
you're talking about. I don't know what
Football, Matt. That's what I'm talking about.
No. He well, being in New York City, they really don't have that much when it comes to college football, so he don't really.
That's what I'm trying to tell him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Some people worry about football. I'm one of them in the beginning of the season until my hopes get snatched away from me. Let me have my hopes. That's all I'm saying. In the beginning of the
All right,
season.
well, good luck, man. Good luck.
Thank you. We'll need it. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll continue to follow what happens there with the Auburn Tigers. For the rest of their season, they got Arkansas coming up next there before they face Oklahoma, Georgia, and Missouri.
Oh my! Dang, you
Right.
just shell shocked me. Dang.
Right. So yeah, if y'all college football fans, y'all be able to follow what's going down there, at least with the SEC or reformed SEC, so to speak, with Texas and Oklahoma in the conference now. But yeah, that's what's been happening. That kind of covers what happened there in the pay-per-view and also the free portion there on Saturday night. Pretty much like getting past 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll put a end to this particular podcast on the midweek report. We are scheduled to have Sean Baden Mitchell on for the midweek report, as he will talk about being inducted in the Atlantic City Hall of Fame, Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame. Of course, that induction ceremony is scheduled for the 28th of whatnot there in Atlantic City. So we're going to have Sean Baden Mitchell on Wednesday, and we're going to have a preview of the bout between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois there before I go out there for that fight. But big thanks for, of course, Albert Prince Bell for joining us as a special guest. And we have our guys, the Boxing Academic and Brother Matt of Brunch Boxing here joining us here for this particular episode of the Boxing Source podcast. Of course, this will be available on audio form on your multiple podcast platforms and still available on YouTube and on Rumble. So y'all be able to continue to watch the replay there when it's available. But big thanks for everyone for joining in here live. And like I said, once again, y'all can share this particular episode for those that enjoy boxing podcasts. And with that being said, I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.